something that left your life, something that mattered, something that you may have quietly grieved even while telling yourself you were fine with it being gone, is making its way back to you. And by the time we reach the final sign in this video, you are going to understand not only what is returning but why it is returning now, and what you need to do to receive it properly. For Gemini, the experience of things returning is never quite as simple as it sounds, because Gemini does not stand still while life moves around them. You evolve, you shift, you grow, and by the time something comes back around, you have changed enough that the return itself looks and feels different from anything you previously experienced with that person, that opportunity, that quality of life. The 10 signs we are about to walk through will help you recognize what is on its way back to you, and more importantly, how to meet it as the person you are now rather than the person you were when it first left. This is important, because receiving a return as your past self will only recreate the past. Receiving it as the evolved, more aware, more honest Gemini you have become, that is where the real magic of this moment lies. Stay with us through all 10 signs. The later ones are the deepest, and they are worth every moment of your attention. Sign 1. Joy. Genuine, uncomplicated, free-flowing joy is beginning to find its way back into the quiet corners of your life. And if that sounds like a small thing, let us be honest with each other for a moment. It is not small at all. Joy, for many Geminis, has been on something of a slow retreat over recent months or perhaps longer. Not a dramatic disappearance, not the sudden shock of loss or grief, just a gradual dimming, like a light that has been slowly turned down so incrementally that you almost did not notice the room getting darker. You adjusted. You kept going. You found meaning in other things, in work, in connection, in the intellectual pleasures that Gemini can always access even when deeper emotional richness feels out of reach. But somewhere underneath the efficient, capable, productive surface of your daily life, there has been a quiet absence. A sense that something light and effortless and genuinely delightful has been missing. That something you used to feel, perhaps often, perhaps regularly, perhaps so naturally that you never even thought to appreciate it, is no longer easily accessible. Joy is returning for Gemini. It will not arrive all at once. It rarely does after a period of depletion. It comes back the way the morning comes, gradually, first as a faint lightening of the sky, then as actual color, then as warmth, then as the full bright fact of day. Over the coming days and weeks, you will notice it in small things first. A conversation that makes you laugh with a depth and ease that surprises you. A moment of beauty, in nature and art, in the unexpected grace of an ordinary day, that stops you in your tracks. A sudden feeling of gratitude that comes without effort, without forcing, without having to remind yourself to feel it. These are the first signs of joy returning. Meet them with your full attention, because each moment of genuine joy you allow yourself to feel and acknowledge makes the next one easier to receive. You are not chasing joy right now. You are preparing to welcome it home. Sign 2. Someone from your past. A person who was significant in your life at an earlier time, who you may have lost touch with or drifted away from for reasons that were not entirely anyone's fault, is on the edge of re-entering your world. This reconnection may already have been announced by a subtle sign. A memory of them that surfaced unexpectedly, a dream in which they appeared, a moment when something reminded you of them so strongly that it felt like more than coincidence. Gemini, not all reconnections with people from the past are meaningful or necessary. Sometimes people re-enter our lives and quickly reveal that the reasons they left are still present, that the distance was appropriate, that there is no new foundation to build upon. But sometimes, and this is one of those times, a reconnection with someone from your past arrives as a genuine gift. Because both of you have grown, both of you have changed, and the relationship that was not possible between who you were then becomes entirely possible between who you are now. The reconnection that is approaching for you carries this quality. There is something unfinished between you and this person, not in the painful sense of old wounds reopened, but in the generative sense of something that was interrupted before it reached its full potential. And now, with new experience and new self-awareness on both sides, the conditions exist to finally let it become what it was always capable of being. Approach this reconnection with openness, genuine openness, not the guarded kind that keeps one eye on the exit at all times. The person returning is not exactly who they were before. Neither are you. Meet them fresh. Let the relationship be what it is now, not what it was then. If what you're hearing feels accurate, Imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Sign 3. A sense of purpose, a clear and motivating sense of why you are doing what you are doing, why you are here, what contribution your particular life is meant to make, is returning after what may have been a long and somewhat disorienting absence. This is a particularly significant return for Gemini, because Gemini at your fullest and most alive is not someone who is simply reactive to whatever life presents, waiting to see what opportunities appear, and then deciding whether to take them. Gemini at your fullest is someone with a genuine sense of direction, a real and personally meaningful vision of what they are moving toward and why. That sense of direction, that felt sense of purpose that makes waking up in the morning feel like something more than obligation, has been somewhat dim or hard to access lately. And that dimming has had effects that you may have felt without always being able to name. A lack of motivation that puzzled you because you have always been a person of abundant energy and curiosity. A flatness in your daily experience that nothing seemed to address, no matter how much you tried to inject novelty or stimulation or distraction into the mix. A quiet but persistent question: what is this all actually for? That question is now beginning to find its answer. Not through a dramatic revelation that arrives like lightning and changes everything in an instant, though that kind of experience is possible, and for some Geminis it does happen that way. More often, the return of purpose for your sign comes gradually and then suddenly. A slow accumulation of clarity that one day reaches a threshold and becomes unmistakable, undeniable. A genuine North Star that orients everything else around it. That threshold is approaching. The purpose that has been quietly rebuilding itself underneath your daily experience is almost ready to surface fully. Be patient with the process, and be ready to recognize it when it arrives. Sign 4. Creative energy that went dormant, perhaps because life got busy and there was no room for it, perhaps because something difficult happened and the playful, inventive part of you quietly withdrew for a while, is beginning to stir again. You may have noticed it already in small ways. A flash of inspiration while doing something completely unrelated, an urge to make something or try something new, a sudden renewed interest in something you used to love before the demands of ordinary life crowded it out. Gemini, your creative life is not a hobby in the conventional sense of something pleasant but ultimately dispensable. Your creativity is intimately connected to your core sense of who you are. When it flows freely, you feel more like yourself, more alive, more engaged, more capable of genuine happiness. When it is blocked or suppressed, something essential goes flat, and the effects spread outward from that core flatness into other areas of your life, into your relationships, your work, your overall sense of possibility. The return of creative energy that is beginning for you now is therefore not just a welcome addition to your leisure time. It is the return of a fundamental dimension of yourself, and it will bring with it a cascade of other returns of enthusiasm, of curiosity, of that distinctive Gemini sparkle that makes you so magnetic to exactly the right people and opportunities. Let the creative energy lead. Follow whatever small sparks of inspiration appear without demanding that they immediately justify themselves with practical outcomes. Let the making happen for its own sake first. The practical fruits of this creative return will manifest in due time, but only if the creation itself is allowed to be free. Sign 5. Confidence, not the performed kind, not the armored kind that Gemini sometimes uses to navigate the world when the inner ground feels uncertain, but the real and quiet and unshakable kind that comes from genuinely knowing and trusting yourself, is returning to you at a level that is deeper than anything you have experienced in some time. This is a significant return because it is not simply about feeling better or more optimistic in a general sense. Deep self-confidence changes how you move through the world in ways that affect every area of your life simultaneously. When you genuinely trust yourself, when you believe at a fundamental level that you are capable, that your judgment is sound, that you have what it takes to navigate whatever arises, you make different choices. You say yes to opportunities that previously would have felt too risky. You say no to situations and people that you know are not right for you, without the agonizing second-guessing that previously made those boundaries so difficult to hold. You show up in your relationships with a quality of presence and generosity that is only possible when you are not secretly afraid of being found wanting or found out. The confidence that is returning for Gemini right now is real because it is earned. It is not the confidence of someone who has never been tested or never failed or never had reason to doubt themselves. It is the confidence of someone who has been through difficulty and doubt and uncertainty, and has come out the other side still standing, still capable, still worthy of their own respect. That kind of confidence, once genuinely established, is not easily shaken. It becomes the foundation from which everything else in your life is built more soundly than before. Sign 6. A conversation or a series of conversations that you needed to have but kept postponing is now beginning to move toward you on its own. Life is creating conditions that make the conversation easier, more natural, more likely to happen in a way that produces genuine understanding and forward movement, rather than the discomfort and misunderstanding you may have feared. Gemini, you are a natural communicator in most contexts. But in certain kinds of conversations, the ones that require emotional vulnerability, the ones that might alter an important relationship, the ones where the stakes feel genuinely high, even Gemini can find reason to postpone, to hold back, to find other things to do and talk about that feel safer. And those postponed conversations have a way of growing heavier with time, of becoming larger and more charged in the imagination than they would ever be in actual reality. The conversation that is now moving toward you is one of those. And what is returning alongside it is not just the opportunity to have it, but also the courage and the clarity to have it well. You will find the right words. You will find the right moment. And when the conversation happens, it will not unfold the way your anxious imagination has been picturing it. It will be more real, more human, more connecting than that. Because the person on the other side of this conversation is also a real person navigating their own complexities, their own fears, their own desire to be understood. Meet them honestly and you will be met honestly in return. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Sign 7. Energy, physical vitality, enthusiasm, the warm and expansive sense of aliveness that makes you want to engage with the world rather than retreat from it, is returning after what may have been a significant period of depletion. And this return of energy is arriving at exactly the right time, because what is coming next in your life is going to require it. Gemini, you have been tired. Not just the ordinary kind of tired that a good night's sleep fixes. The deeper kind, the kind that lives in the bones, that comes from having given more than you have received for too long, from having carried more than your share without adequate support, from having spent yourself on things and people and situations that did not fully replenish what they took. That kind of tiredness is not simply a physical problem. It is a signal, a profound and persistent signal, that something in the way you have been spending your life energy needs to change. And the beautiful thing about this moment for Gemini is that the signal has been heard. Change has already begun in your inner world, in your habits, in the choices you have been making, with increasing awareness about what is truly worth your energy and what is not. And because that change has begun at the root level, the energy is now beginning to return. Not all at once, not explosively, but steadily, sustainably, in a way that will build over time rather than burning bright and then crashing again. The vitality that is returning to you is not the old, scattered, endlessly dispersed Gemini energy. It is something more focused, more intentional, more genuinely powerful. It knows where it is going, and it is going somewhere worth its full investment. Sign 8. A sense of belonging. A feeling of being genuinely at home in your own life, among the people who matter most to you, within the community or the world that you inhabit, is beginning to return after a period of feeling strangely out of place or disconnected. This is one of the quieter but more profound returns that can happen for Gemini, because Gemini is so socially adaptable, so capable of fitting into different environments, speaking different social languages, adjusting naturally to the particular rhythms and expectations of different groups. You can sometimes exist in a kind of surface belonging that masks a deeper sense of disconnection. You are welcome everywhere, comfortable almost nowhere. You can hold conversations with almost anyone but feel truly seen by almost no one. You can move through the world with apparent ease while carrying a private experience of not quite fully fitting in anywhere. The belonging that is returning for you now is not the surface kind. It is the real thing, the experience of being genuinely known and genuinely valued by the people around you, not because you have performed a role successfully, but because who you actually are has been seen and welcomed. This return often begins with one relationship, one person who sees you clearly and receives you fully, and then gradually extends outward, creating a slowly expanding circle of genuine connection. That expanding circle is already beginning for Gemini, the sense of home that you have been quietly longing for. It is on its way back. Sign 9. A financial or material opportunity that you thought had passed you by, that you had written off as missed, that you had reluctantly made your peace with not having, is showing signs of revival. This is one of the more practically significant signs for Gemini, and it is worth approaching with both optimism and clear-eyed discernment. The opportunity that is returning is not identical to what it was before. It has evolved as you have evolved. It may be arriving through a different channel in a slightly different form, attached to conditions that are more favorable in some ways and more complex in others. And that means that the right response to its return is not to approach it the way you would have approached it the first time, with whatever mixture of eagerness and hesitation characterized your previous relationship to it. Instead, bring your current self to it. Bring the full benefit of everything you have learned in the intervening time. Bring the clarity about what you actually want and what actually matters to you that you have worked hard to develop. Bring the practical wisdom that comes from experience, including, if applicable, the experience of having missed or let go of this particular opportunity the first time. You are not starting over. You are getting a second approach from a position of greater knowledge, greater self-awareness, and greater practical capability than you had before. That is an advantage. Use it wisely, and what returns to you in this area of your life could become something more solid and more genuinely satisfying than what the first version of it could ever have been. Sign 10. The truest, most authentic version of yourself, the one that knows exactly who it is, what it wants, what it values, and how it wants to move through the world, is coming back to the surface after a period of submersion. This is the most important return of all, because all of the other returns we have talked about, the joy, the connection, the creative energy, the purpose, the confidence, the belonging, the vitality, the opportunity, all of them depend on this one. When you are fully and genuinely yourself, life opens. Opportunities align. Relationships deepen. Creativity flows. Purpose becomes visible. Energy returns. Belonging becomes real. But when you have drifted, even gradually and without quite realizing it, from your own authentic center, when you have been performing versions of yourself that do not quite match who you actually are, when you have been making choices based on what seemed expected or sensible or safe rather than on what genuinely resonates with your actual values and desires, everything becomes subtly effortful. Even things that should be easy feel harder than they need to. Even things that should bring joy bring only a pale imitation of it. Gemini, the drift from your authentic self is ending. The return to it is underway. And as you settle back into the truth of who you actually are, your real preferences, your genuine values, your actual dreams, watch how the world around you begins to shift in response. Not because the outer world changes first, but because when you are truly, unapologetically, fully yourself, everything that belongs in your life finds you more easily, and everything that does not belong begins to fall away, naturally, gracefully, without force or grief. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are. Something is returning to Gemini. Not just one thing, but many things arriving in layers, each one unlocking the next, each one making space for the next to land. The return has already begun. You can feel it if you pay close enough attention. And the question now is simply this: are you ready to receive it fully? Are you ready to welcome back what belongs to you? What has always belonged to you? Not as a temporary relief, but as a permanent and solid part of the life you are building from this moment forward? You are. And it knows it too. It is already on its way home.